All right, today we are going to do two lessons combined. We are doing lesson 119 and 120, which is the last lesson in the book. So you guys have made it so far. All right, we actually already know how to do most of this stuff. Actually, all of this stuff, we just got to put it together. So we're just going to go through and practice a couple problems. Today we are going to be adding and subtracting. Mixed numbers is what lesson 120 is, and fractions is what lesson 119 is. We're just combining them today with different denominators. Okay, so there are two steps to these problems. One, we need to change the denominators so that they are the same. So we learned how to do that yesterday, right? So if we look at this right here, we've got 4 1/6 and 2 1/2. So we are just going to need to change that 2 so that it's a 6, right? So we're going to change the denominator so that they're the same, and then we're going to add them. Or if it's a subtraction problem, we're going to subtract them. So you've already done both of these steps. So we are just going to combine them and now do them as steps instead of as different problems. So we've got 4 1/6 plus 2 1/2. Let's just come over here. 2 1/2. Well, we want 1/2 to equal something over 6. Okay. 1/2 equals what over 6? Times 3 times 3, 3/6. So 2 1/2 is the same as, well, I guess I shouldn't put equals right there. 2 1/2 is the same as 2 3/6. So 4 1/6 plus 2 3/6 equals what? Well, first thing we're going to do with our whole numbers, we're going to add our whole numbers. 4 plus 2 is 6. 1/6 plus 3/6. Remember, the bottom number stays the same. You add the top, so you get 4/6. So the answer is 6 4/6. Okay, so we are just going to be adding mixed numbers, adding fractions, subtracting mixed numbers, subtracting fractions. We're going to go to the practice page. We're going to practice a couple of these. The next one that I want to do is, let's do 4 3/4 minus 1 1/2. Okay, 4 3/4 minus 1 1/2. So before we do that, we've got to change 1/2 so that ends, or the common denominator is a 4, right? So let's come over here. 1/2 equals what over 4? 2 times 2 is 4. So multiply 2 at the top, 2/4. So 1/2 is the same thing as 2/4. So watch what I'm doing right here. 1/2 is the same thing as 2/4. So I'm going to get rid of the 1/2 and I'm just going to make it 2/4. Okay? So now we've got to do 4 3/4 minus 1 2/4. So 4 minus 1, look what I'm doing. 4 minus 1 is 3. And then the next piece, what I'm doing is 3/4 minus 2/4. Remember, you keep the bottom number the same. 3 minus 2 is 1. So our answer is 3 1/4. 3 1/4. Okay, next, let's not do the mixed numbers. Let's just do a fraction problem. I think these ones will be a little bit easier for you. If you can do the mixed numbers, you can do the fractions. So let's do 1/3 plus 1/9. 1/3 plus 1/9. What's our common denominator here? We talked about this yesterday. Remember, we can do 3 times 9 if we want to make it 27, but that's super big. Because really, the 3 right here, this 3, we could just make it into a 9. 3 times 3 is 9, so times 3, so that's 3/9. So 1/3 equals 3/9. So we're just going to rewrite it. 3/9 plus 1/9, right? 3/9 plus 1/9 equals 4/9, right? Now let's do one more with fraction, or with subtraction. Let's do 3/8 minus 1/4. 3/8 minus 1/4. 3/8 minus 1/4. We could make the bottom number 32, but remember that's giant. So could we make 4? Could we make 4 have a denominator, 1/4 have a denominator of 8? Yeah, we can. That's 8. Multiply that by 2, multiply that by 2, so you get 2/8. So we're going to do 3/8 minus 1/4 is the same thing as 2/8. So I'm just going to make that 2/8. And it's going to equal what? 3 minus 2 is 1. You keep the 8s the same. 1/8. Okay? You can watch this video again if you'd like. We have already learned how to do subtracting and adding fractions and mixed numbers that have common denominators. And then yesterday you learned how to make a common denominator. Okay? You learned how to make a common denominator. The questions on your homework today will be easier. The making them into common denominators, they will be easier than the ones on your homework yesterday. Okay? So you just have to combine both of those steps, and then you'll be able to do your homework today. Your homework doesn't have any other review problems. It's only adding and subtracting fractions or mixed numbers. Okay? You are going to have to change it, make it into a common denominator, and then add or subtract. Make sure you simplify. Remember we talked about simplifying several weeks ago as well? So if your answer was 2/8, you would have to simplify that, right? You could divide both of those numbers by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So 2/8, like we just did, is the same as 1/4. So make sure you simplify your answers. It is multiple choice, so you should be able to look at the answers and figure out which one is correct, as long as you're close with your adding and subtracting. So if you need to re-watch this video, feel free to do that. But that's all we have for today. I know this was a shorter video than normal, but this is the very last homework from the book that you have. We'll be reviewing next week and then taking our end of course test next week as well. So good luck on your homework and on the test this week and on the test next week. Keep studying, keep working hard. Talk to you guys later.